What would it feel like to be truly, deeply happy, regardless of your circumstances? Did you know that happiness is a choice and not a result? That you can create your life on purpose? Join us now to learn more. This is the Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. And here's your host, mindset coach, and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott.
Hello and welcome. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. I am telling you, this has been one hell of a week. So I'm very glad that today is Friday, partly because I get to be with you and partly because it means the week's just about over. So today we are talking about something very important. By the way, I should tell you, you're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. And I'm your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. When I don't introduce myself at the beginning of the show, you know it's been a hell of a week. Yes, ma'am. All right. So what do we do here on Time to Rise and Thrive? Today, we are going to be talking about our goals. We're going to be talking about, are you meeting your 2022 goals? And we're going to kind of do it from a different place. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to pull this thing apart in a way that we're not really used to thinking about our goals, right? Because our goals are generally the thing that we go, okay, I want to do this thing and I want it accomplished by that date, and so on and so on and so on, right? We've been conditioned, we've been taught that goals are important, and they are, that we have to have something that we're striving for. Yes, we do. It makes things so much better when we're actually looking toward something that we feel is going to be fun or juicy or good or yummy or whatever it is. It makes it easier to do the work when we're looking forward to it. So what do we do? What do we do if we get into this frame of mind where we're fixated on this thing that we've decided on, this decision that we've made? What do we do if it's not coming together? That's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. And we're going to talk about it from a place of, are these goals still the correct direction? Am I still moving toward the thing? Yes. So on Time to Rise and Thrive, what we do here is we talk about our subliminal soundtrack. We talk about getting it working for us rather than against us. We talk about recognizing our unique beauty and value. And we talk about building a bulletproof belief in yourself. It is so important for us to understand who we are, what we bring to the table, what our contribution is to the world and to the people around us. Partly because sometimes we get into these spaces where we're not being a very positive contribution to the people that we care about. And partly because sometimes we don't recognize how positive a contribution we are making to those same people. So this is what we do on our show here. So today's show, again, today is, are you meeting your 2022 goals? And we are going to be talking about, what do you do if you find yourself off track, how to get yourself back into the right place to move in that direction. And we've still got 10 months. We've still got 10 months to hit those goals if they are right for us. So before we get into the really yummy, juicy goal stuff, we're going to talk about a little bit about the subliminal soundtrack. So what is our subliminal soundtrack? It's a loop of messages that plays in the back of our mind all day, every day. It's made up of little bits of information that we've picked up throughout the course of our lives. So every relationship you've been in, every conversation you've had, every lesson you've learned, every single experience has given you little bits of information that you've put back there. You've stored it back there on that subliminal soundtrack. And we use that information to create our belief systems about who we are, about what we are, about what's possible for us, what's not possible. What does it mean to love or be loved? What does it mean to have or not have money? All of these things are wrapped up in that belief system, or those belief systems that we've created because of the information on our subliminal soundtrack. So here's the great news. If you are stuck, if you are not breaking through and breaking free and getting to the thing that is going to help you build that life that you really desire to have, we can change it. And this is what I do. This is what I do. And it brings me so much joy. And every single Friday, we are here talking about another place where this mindset stuff impacts us and what we can do about it. So join us every Friday afternoon, 1 p.m. We're live on Inspired Choices Network, and then it becomes a podcast that you can go back and watch as many times as you need. Right? We are on all kinds of different places. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Binge TV Network, we're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, we're all over the place, all over the place. So if you like what you hear today, feel free to go back and find the other podcasts. Feel free to go back and see if there's another thing that speaks to your heart as we go through this information. I would love to have you. And you can find me on Facebook, Jackie Mott, Mindset and Empowerment Expert, or you can contact me through the website, jackiemott.com. So how does this subliminal soundtrack thing work? How does it affect our way of being, our way of thinking, our mindset? So there's a couple of really important pieces of information. The first is that what we believe to be true will be true for us, even if it's based on completely incorrect information. Absolutely truth. The second piece of information is that we create our circumstances to support the belief systems that we currently have. So what does it mean to be loved? We've all heard songs and seen movies and all of that kind of stuff. And maybe in your personal life, you've experienced this too, but there's this mindset that love hurts, right? There's this mindset that love hurts. So how would that impact this subliminal soundtrack, the belief system, so on and so forth? It is going to create this circumstance, this situation where you, as the person who is acting on those belief systems, you will welcome into your world people who will cause you to hurt and call it love. Number one. Number two, you will tolerate things that you would not normally tolerate. You will tolerate bad behaviors and things that cause you to question yourself or to feel poorly about yourself. You will tolerate those things because you believe that love hurts. Do you see what I'm saying? So one of the things that came up this morning as I was getting ready for the show is this idea that we act on things based on what we believe is available to us or unavailable to us. This has really been sort of on my mind lately, because if you've watched the show before, you'll know that I became a mom when I was 17 years old. When that happened, I picked up this belief system about myself that was really not positive. It was, sort of this like, you've ruined your life. There will never be any coming back from this. You have made your bed. Now you get to lie in it for the rest of your life. 16 years old. And I believed that I had ruined my life. It's true. So what I created out of that was this life that supported that I had very limited choices and I'd better take the best option that was available to me rather than requiring something that was going to be good for me. Okay, do you understand that? It created this thing that caused me to make decisions about people, about career, about all kinds of things, like everything, money flows, everything. I created those based on this belief that I had ruined my life when I was 16 years old. So flip forward or fast forward another, say, 15, 20 years, when all of a sudden I understood that that is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolute. I hadn't killed anybody. I'd had a baby. I was still the exact same person that I had been before. I was still smart and funny and, hardworking and ambitious. I was still all of the same things that I had been 5 minutes before I made that announcement. Do you see what I'm saying? So I created a life based on those limitations that I believed to be true. But when I realized that this is absolutely ridiculous, why would that situation cause me to be unable to go to school and get a good job? Why would it cause me, like, this makes no sense? Subliminal soundtrack. So what I did at that point was I started to shift the circumstances that I was creating for myself. I put myself in a position where there were more opportunities, where there were different people, where there were different mindsets that I could tap into and learn from, so that I could propel myself toward those things that I really desired. Okay, like, are you getting the value of this? So I want you to perceive this thing of like, there's something that I really want, there's something that I really desire, but it's over there, and there's this great big chasm between us. So the initial, I don't even know what to call it, but the girl who believed that she'd ruined her life would have done one of two things. She would have stood on the edge of that cliff and looked across and went, "Oh man, that looks so amazing, but I can't have it because I've ruined my life. I've ruined everything, and my potential is gone." Do you see what I'm saying? So I would have either stood there and been very sad about the circumstances that made it unavailable to me, or I would have walked away and gone in a different direction, which is what I did, right? I would have gone in a different direction because that's not available. There's no point. What's the point in me spending my time and energy working on that thing that I can't have? Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So the updated version that believes that those belief systems are absolutely ludicrous, that version goes, "Oh, yeah, I see that. hmm I think I like that. I think I might like to have that person in my life. I think I might like to have that career. I think I might like to have that money. I think I might like to have whatever it is." And so that person goes around looking for opportunities. I am looking for the tools that are going to help me to build that bridge from where I am now to that thing that I might really like to have. I'm going to look for the people who are going to help me to build that bridge or open doors for me or whatever the case may be. So, this is why it is so very important for us to get this subliminal soundtrack in a place that it is working for us rather than against us. How is this going to relate to this thing that we're talking about today? So, if you are in a position where you believe that goals are, so very important, they are so very important. And once you have made that decision, once you have decided that that goal is the direction for you, if you don't follow through, what does that mean? Does it mean you're a failure? Does it mean that you are incapable of committing? Now, I want you to hear this language because hear the words and feel the energy. I am incapable of committing to this thing. What does that mean? What does that mean about me? Does it mean that I am, not hardworking? Does it mean that I'm not ambitious? What does it mean? So we tie so much meaning to this thing. I've set this goal. This is what I want to achieve. But if we shift that to be, okay, everything, remember we talked about this, every single experience gives me an opportunity to learn something different. Every single experience gives me more information, updated information, new information that I can then store on that subliminal soundtrack. And I'm allowed to change my mind. Or maybe it's not what I thought it was going to be going into it. This is very important, because here's one of the things that we, as we go in a new direction, as we sort of figure out how to be in a different circumstance, there are so many things that we will learn that we wouldn't have known going into it. We are, when we make a goal, when we make a decision, we're going in blind. Even if you have people who, let's just take a workplace. Let's just take a workplace, for example. Okay, so we may know somebody there. Maybe they put in a good word and got us a job or helped us get in the door or whatever it is, right? So we may know somebody who already is in that. Maybe we know nobody. But even if we do know somebody, there are very likely dynamics there that we have no idea are there. Do you see what I'm saying? Those dynamics, maybe there's really bad office politics. And I'm telling you, I don't tolerate office politics very well at all. Maybe there's a lot of gossip. Maybe there's a lot of, sabotaging and people playing games. You're not going to know that until you're there. Even if you know somebody that's there, maybe their tolerance is different for those sorts of things. Or maybe they're part of the things that are going on that are going to make you crazy. So we have to allow room for there to be new information that comes to light, for there to be a shift in the circumstances that we believed going in were what we were going to be dealing with. We have to allow space for that. And that is what today's show is all about. So I'm going to take us to our first break. When we come back, we are going to continue this conversation. What gets us stuck? What do we do when we're stuck? And I would very much encourage you to grab yourself a pen and paper and get ready to take some notes, because I'm sure that there's going to be a few golden nuggets that are going to get thrown out as we go through today's show. So you're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert, and we are going to head to that break. Stick with us. We will be back in just a moment.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, and today we are talking about goals. We're talking about what do we do when we find ourselves off track? How do we get ourselves back on track? And all kinds of other yummy stuff. So what I want to share with you right now is that there was a class that I took a number of years ago, and they were talking about this goals thing. And I remember the instructor, I don't know what the reference was, so I can't validate this, but I remember her talking about this. And she said that goal was actually like the word that came out of an older word, and the context was jail. So there was that context. I also looked it up this morning while I was doing my magic, getting ready to come on and talk to you today. And it says that it's an old English meaning for a boundary or limit. So I want you to just play with that for a second. Feel that. So if I set a goal, then I'm actually limiting myself. I have set my boundaries around that goal. Or I have created a jail for myself within that goal. Do you see what I'm saying? So when we hear these experts, and I'm not even going to talk about it, but we hear a lot of business experts, especially, or, teachers or things like that, talking about this goal stuff. It's important for us to understand that by creating those goals and not allowing that space that we talked about for new information, for things to shift, for us to change our position or change our perspective, when we don't allow for those things, we are actually really limiting ourselves. So consider this for a second. If you are someone who is of the mindset that in order to be a woman who's attractive, it means these things. So maybe it means that your body has to be a certain size, type, shape, whatever it is. Maybe it's that I need to be a certain age. Maybe it's that I need to dress in a certain way. By deciding that, by making that my my mindset around this thing, I am actually shutting off anything that does not equal those things. Do you see what I'm saying? So in order for me to be an attractive, vibrant, sensual woman, I need to look a certain way. I need to be a certain age. I'm cutting myself off from so many other possibilities, right? Right. So here's the thing, we need to leave ourselves open for new information, for new experiences to teach us things that we did not know before, because that is what creates other possibilities. So let's just get real about this whole thing for a few minutes. We just talked about these definitions of what locks us in on those goals, right? We just talked about that. Maybe we feel like we've made a commitment to somebody. And there's a thing about that, and only you can decide whether that commitment is important enough for you to continue down that path, or if you're allowed to change your mind. Only you can decide that. We may have decided that we're going to do something for someone other than ourselves. So, perfect example of this was when my son was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old or something like that. I decided that I needed to go back to school. I'd gotten my grade 12, which is high school diploma here, had my grade 12, went out into the workforce thinking that my grade 12 was going to help me get a different job, but it really didn't work out that way. I didn't have the skill set. And one of the things that I really enjoyed doing was like office work. So answering phones and different things like that. I enjoyed doing that stuff. So there was a career college and I went over there. They did this aptitude test. And I think that initially I was talking about signing up for something like a 6-month course that was for, secretarial admin assistant type skills. And the guy came back into the room and he said, "Oh yeah, well, you definitely have an aptitude for that, but we also found that you have an aptitude for this other thing. And if you'd be interested in that other thing, which included accounting and business, what was it, business administration and whatever, there were a whole bunch of added things. It was a longer course. It cost a bit more money. It was more in depth, and what he said was that will help open more doors for you." And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's great. So again, I walked in with the goal of signing up for a secretarial admin assistant type of course. I walked out having registered for an accounting and business administration course. Do you see what I'm saying? So you got to allow for that new information. What is the best option available to me at the time? Now, I need to be clear, I had never in my life considered doing accounting. In fact, when I was younger, before this catastrophic pregnancy, before that, I had worked, I'd volunteered with deaf kids, and I thought that I was going to become a sign language interpreter. So I thought that I would become a sign language interpreter, or there were a number of other things that I might have wanted to do. So if it had been about me choosing what I desired, I would not have gone that day to that career college. It was the best thing for me to do as a young mom at that time, to create the opportunity to make a better living so that I could support my son in a better way. Some of us will make choices to, for careers or whatever, people that you're going to marry, all kinds of stuff around what our parents think is right for us when we're young, especially. Or maybe it's about your spouse. There was a circumstance where I had actually put a lot of work into building this coaching practice, and I had some pretty good momentum. I was speaking for different events. I was, having groups and so on and so forth. And at the time, my ex-husband and I were separated, so I was free to do all of whatever I wanted to do. When we reconciled, he was unable to support the work that I wanted to do. And so I let it go for the sake of the marriage and went back to the work that I really had never enjoyed, the accounting and the business admin. I'm very good at it, but it wasn't something that lights me up. It isn't something that lights me up to do that kind of work. This lights me up, working with people and helping them shift their mindset and move toward their goals, to see their beauty, to see their contribution. Those things, oh my God, I get so fired up and excited. There is not a whole lot in this world that makes me happier than when I see somebody that I've been working with start to break free of those limitations that they have created for themselves. It's amazing. So when we feel like we've made a commitment, especially to someone who's really important to us, we may feel like we're going to let them down if we don't follow through. That's a very real thing. And I'm sure that we've all done it. I'm sure that we've all been in that space where we're like, okay, I said that I was going to do this thing. I really don't want to do it anymore, but I'm going to do it anyway because I promised so and so that I would. Now, if it's like, okay, an event, or I said that I would cook something, or I said that I would, do the laundry or something like that, something short term, then probably that's not that big of a deal. But if you're choosing a career or a partner for your marriage or something like that, those are big decisions, and you need to do the thing that's right for you. You must, because otherwise you're going to wrap yourself up in this space where you are absolutely not feeling that fire, that, oh my God, I'm just so excited to do this thing. I'm so excited to do the work that I get to do. I'm so blessed to be in a position where I get to do that, where I get to have a show on Inspired Choices Network, and I get to come on every Friday and talk about some new mindset thing, where I get to teach these things that I've learned throughout my life that held me back. And I got to tell you, like, you can go and talk to somebody who's learned from books. Okay, they'll know something that you probably don't know. But if you really want change, if you really want massive change, the best thing to do is to learn from someone who's already done it. Surround yourself with people who have the circumstances you'd like to have. Surround yourself with the people who, have the finances that you would like to have. Surround yourself with the people who are able to guide you. There's a thing we call them mentors, right? We call them mentors for a reason. They've already walked the path. They're further down the path than we are. They know the terrain. They know the landscape. They know what to watch out for and where to leap and where to hold back or slow down. Do you see what I'm saying? It's very important for us to understand there are people all over the place, that maybe you've got some in your friend group or your work or your family or whatever the case may be. There are also people like me who coach. There are people who are counselors. There's so many options. If you are someone who is stuck and having trouble getting to that breakthrough that's going to push you to the things that you want, go find someone to help you. Go find someone there. We're everywhere. A lot of things actually don't even cost any money. Most of the stuff that I do, the show, I don't charge for admission to the show. I don't charge for the podcast to be played again. I don't charge for the stuff that I share on Facebook. I do charge for the work that I do with people, in a group or one-on-one. And some of the options are very inexpensive. Some of them cost money. I'm just saying, there are lots of options out there, lots of options out there. So if you find yourself in this place where you're like, man, I know I said that I wanted to do this, but it's not feeling so good right now. Is it something where you need to push through? Is it something where there's a challenge that is a growth opportunity for you and you just need to keep going and push through it? Or is it something that is like that red flag, your sirens are going off saying, go back, do not enter, right? What is it? If you're having trouble figuring that out, talk to people and get their help, get their assistance with this. So one of the things that is really huge, and this is the last point that I'm going to make before we go to our next break, fear is often the thing that holds us back and keeps us stuck in these, I decided I was going to do this. I said that I was going to do this. It's because somebody, I don't want to beat up on my ex-husband. That's not what this is about, but let's take that as an example. So the fear of losing that relationship was the thing that kept me in a place of, okay, I'm going to give up this thing that I really love. I'm going to give it up because I love him. And, the marriage is important and. So the fear of the loss of that relationship was what kept me in that space of not doing the thing that I loved, that feeds my soul, that makes me so happy, makes me excited to get out of bed. That was the thing, the fear of the loss of that relationship. Now, Here's a really important question, and it's a hard question. If the person in that relationship, whether it's a parent, a spouse, a partner, a friend, a child, like whomever it is in your life, if the person on the other side of that conversation, if they really love you, they're invested in you being happy. Will they be happy that you changed your mind? Probably not, especially if it impacts their life. But if they love you, really love you, their main desire for you is that you be happy. So the question you need to ask yourself is, do I want people in my life who don't care about my being happy, who put their happiness or their comfort before mine? Do I want those people in my life? And if you do, God bless, keep going. Keep going. I have no judgment. For me, it came to a point where I couldn't hold back. And that was ultimately, I think, one of the main reasons why the marriage fell apart in the end. It was fantastic for me. And again, I'm not trying to beat him up at all, at all, at all. It was wonderful for a while. It was a long-term relationship. It fed both of our needs for a very long time. But at a certain point, it was necessary for me to do the thing that was right for me. And stuff happens, right? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to head to our next break. I'm going to again encourage you to grab yourself a pen and paper. The next segment of our show is where we talk about what do we do? What do we do with this thing? What do we do when we find ourselves in this position? And I'm going to give you some really good questions and things to consider if you're in that position. All right, so grab yourself that pen and paper while we're on our next break. You're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. We will be back with you in just a moment.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. And today we are talking about, are you meeting your 2022 goals? Yes, 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 yes. So what do we do if we find ourselves off track? What do we do if we are in now? We're in it. Now we're in it. And does it still feel right? This is what we're talking about on today's show. Yay. So before we get to that, I'm going to encourage you to grab that pen and paper if you haven't already. And I'm just going to share with you some of the stuff that's been going on in my world over the last little while. So it's interesting because the marriage was the divorce was finalized at the end of last year. And it was so wonderful because for me, that just sort of opened things up. And there were things, projects and whatnot that I'd been sort of playing around with, but hadn't really put at the forefront of my stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? Yes. There were things that I was waiting on. There were things that I was sort of not feeling like I could move forward on until that happened. So it's beautiful because I'm working on my book. I'm finally working on my book. I've been talking about it for 4 years. And I'm finally working on this book. The book is going to be called Believe All Things Are Possible. And there is a program that is coming out as I'm writing this book. Believe All Things Are Possible. So we are going to dive into belief systems in a really big way in that program. We're going to have different options. There will be a master class that is once a month. There will also be a mastermind in addition. So again, if you don't have a lot of money, attend the master class. It's going to be very inexpensive. The mastermind will be a different group because there's more in it. There's more involved in it. So the price point will be a little bit higher. And then there will be people who will have the option to work one-on-one with me on their specific mindset issues so that we can actually crack this sucker open and get on with things, get busy creating, get busy living. Yes, get busy living. So that is one of the things I'm really excited about. And we're going to be talking again about the subliminal soundtrack, how it affects us, what we can do to break free of it. By the way, there is a free download on my website, jackiemott.com. It's called 5 Steps to Create a Mindset Wired for Success. So if you're somebody who is resonating with the stuff that we're talking about, go and grab that free article and have a look. It gives you I don't really hold a whole lot back. I give you the steps on what to do to create that different mindset in that article. So go grab that. Find us on Facebook, Jackie Mott, Mindset and Empowerment Expert. Come and join us here on Friday afternoons. Watch the podcast, whatever it is, right? There's all kinds of stuff available to you if you resonate with me and you would like to hear more about what I have to say. So now let's get into, what do we do about this thing? How do we adjust our thinking? How do we create a different way of being? So here you go. Grab that pen and paper. The first thing that we have to do is we have to reassess and evaluate. So reassessing and evaluating. So remember we talked about that thing where we started a new job and we get there and we didn't really understand that there were these dynamics that were going on in that workplace. So now we have that information. We have this new information. And what are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with this thing, right? This new information. Is it still the direction that you want to go? Again, is it one of those situations where you're coming up against something and it's not easy, but you just need to keep pushing through? Or is it something that's telling you, maybe this isn't the right fit for me after all? Maybe this isn't the right thing for me after all. So again, the accounting stuff in the marriage, right? After it was all said and done, then I came to a place where I was like, yeah, I don't think that I want to continue to do that in the long term. So what am I going to do about that? Well, I'm going to get busy building this coaching thing. I'm going to, oh, look, I have an opportunity to have a show on Friday afternoons on Inspired Choices Network. Okay, well, that feels like, okay, think about this again. We're on this side of the chasm. The thing that we want is over there. Is my engaging with you on Friday afternoons not my taking an opportunity to build part of that bridge? Is my updating my qualifications not my helping myself to build that bridge to get over there to the thing that I want. So reassess and evaluate. Have you made any progress on this thing? Have you made any progress? Because sometimes, again, it's a matter of I need to continue to push through. I'm coming up against something. I'm learning something new. I'm all of a sudden being confronted with, this healing thing that needs to take place. And if that's your thing, last week's show was about navigating a healing crisis. So go back and find that. It was really informative. It was really informative. So is it something where I'm now being confronted with a piece of myself that I haven't healed yet? And I need to do the healing so that I can move forward. Or again, is this information that is showing me that this is not the right direction for me? Next step, course correct if necessary. So I keep talking about this thing because it is so true. We have this idea that here I am now, my goal is here, and it's a straight line between me and that. There are a couple of points about this. There are a couple of points, one of which is we need to understand that rockets are off course 95% of the time. So they get new information, they course correct. They get new information, they course correct. Maybe there's a storm. Maybe there's a weather thing. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Maybe there's an obstacle in the way, right? So they have to course correct, course correct, course correct, course correct, and they get there. They get there by evaluating, course correcting, course correcting, course correcting. That is a real thing. It is a real thing. What if you run into construction? You're driving down the highway, you're heading to visit a friend or whatever, your family, whatever it is, right? And all of a sudden you run into, there's been an accident, or there's this huge construction thing that's backed things up for 5 hours. Do you want to sit in that, or do you want a detour? Do you see what I'm saying? So you get to decide. And that is the really wonderful piece. All of this stuff is up to you. Are you going to shift your mindset, or are you going to shift your direction? It's all up to you. Isn't that wonderful? It's so empowering when we start to understand it's all up to you. Nobody else gets to make those decisions. If you allow other people to make those decisions for you, they're the ones making the decisions. And you are making a decision in allowing them to make the decision. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? So we sometimes feel powerless, and we are not powerless. You get to choose. Always, you get to choose. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is reset. So when it's necessary for us to change our position or change our direction completely, or any number of other things, when that happens, we can hit the reset button. Easy peasy, hit the reset button. So from what you have learned about this circumstance, what's changed? Has it changed your interest level in this thing? Has it changed your thoughts about what it means? What have you learned? So really quickly, there was a story a few years back. I had dreamed of having horses forever. I love horses, love them. And I had dreamed of having 2 or 3 horses, a little hobby farm, that kind of thing, for a very, very, like most of my life, very long time. And I had a lady that was in my world at that point, and she had, I think it was 3 horses. She lived outside of town, not very far. And so her and I were talking one day, and she said, oh, well, I'd love some help. Do you want to come out and help me with the horses? I'm like, yes, of course I do. Of course I do. So I go out there, and we're like in very cold day, like we can't feel fingers and toes cold day, even though you're bundled up and dressed for the weather. And we'd been in this space of like thaw, freeze, thaw, freeze, thaw, freeze in the area that I live. And so what had happened was the horses had gone out and rolled around in the mud, and now they needed to be brushed. You can't wash them off because it's too bloody cold out. They'll get sick. So we had to brush the mud, the dried, frozen mud out of their, like off of them altogether, out of their mane, out of their tail, everything. When I left that place, I didn't want to have horses anymore. Or maybe I'll have horses, but I'll have somebody that's going to do the work. I'll have someone else do the work for me so that I can just enjoy them. See, shifting your direction. I might still consider it, but I'm not going to consider it in the same way that I used to. Very important. Now, what have you learned with what you now know or understand? What can you do differently to incorporate the new information? What can you do differently now that you didn't know about before? Do you see what I'm saying? And the last point, very important. There is no such thing as failure. So let that go. We don't fail because we don't achieve a goal. If we are actively participating in the process, and if we are actively moving toward the thing that we choose for ourselves, there is no failure in that. There's absolutely no failure. I want you to consider just really quickly, baby learning to walk. Baby learning to walk falls down who knows how many times. They stand up, they fall down, they stand up, they fall down, they stand up, they fall down, right? Every single time that they fall down and get back up, they are learning new information. So how do I, position myself so that I don't fall down? What part of my foot or my leg do I need to put in what position? Would it help if I pulled myself up on this thing and steadied myself a little bit? Every single time they get back up, they are learning a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And eventually they're running around like maniacs, right? This is what happens. So there is no failure. There is no failure. As long as you are actively participating in the process that you are choosing for yourself, you're not failing because you don't achieve a goal. Changing your mind is allowed. You are allowed to do that. And there is no failure in changing your mind and going in a different direction if you believe that the new direction is a better fit for you. So on that note, we've got to head to our last break. I'm sorry, guys. I am jazzed about this. I could talk all day about this one subject. So you're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. And today we are talking about our goals for 2022. What do you do? What do you do? Are you meeting them? Do you want to meet them? Do you not want to meet them? I don't know. What do you do? That's what we're talking about today. So again, you're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. And when we come back, we are going to wrap up today's conversation about goals. So stick with us for just a moment. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on our Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. And now we are talking about this, wrapping up this conversation about our goals. Do you still want to do the thing? Do you still enjoy it? Does it still feel like it's the right direction? Do you need to push through, or do you need to shift things altogether? That's what we're talking about today. So Um, I said a little bit earlier in the show about this skills testing, this aptitude testing that happened when I went to that career college and decided to take the accounting and business admin course. What I want to say about that is that it was absolutely the right direction. It was absolutely the right direction. But if hadn't been for that conversation, if I had walked in there fixated on I'm going to be a secretary, an admin assistant, and words change, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. If I'm going to do that job and I'm going to have my diploma in 6 months, and that means that I'm going to be able to get out there and get to work. If I had been fixated on that goal, I would not have been open to the other possibility. The other possibility actually was a much better thing for my family. Was it harder? Yes, of course it was. Was it more intense? Did it require more of me to study in like those subjects that were not part of the other? Absolutely, 100%. I've always been able to answer a phone well. So I've always, I did really well in typing in school, in high school, right? So those skills were already there. I didn't really need to develop those a whole lot to do this secretarial, to learn how to do accounting. Are you kidding me? That's a whole different skill set than what I had already learned, right? But had it not been for me making that choice in that moment, I wouldn't have been able to start my own business. And my own business has, man, it is opened so much up. The relationships that I have with people, the people that I've met and worked with, the things that I've learned, the opportunity to start this thing whenever I feel like it, to work around the schedule that I have in my life at the moment. I can work at 3 o'clock in the morning if I can't work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, can't I? It's a choice that I get to make. So the ability to, make a living even while I was dealing with some very difficult circumstances in my personal life or inside my family, it would not have happened had I not made the choice to go with the different program. Do you see what I'm saying? So we've got to be open. We've got to be open to responding to, not reacting to. Reacting is probably not the right energy, but responding to new information, responding to a situation that is different than we expected it to be. We'll go back to that conversation about the workplace. There's no way that I'm going to know. And this is true for anything. It can be true for career choices. It can be true for programs for school. It can be true for relationships. Huge thing in relationships, right? So when I get into the situation, I start to see things that I had no way of knowing before I got there. The dynamics are different. The person, especially, let's talk about relationship really quick before we wrap things up. If I get involved with a person, I don't know who they are yet. I have no idea who they are yet, right? The getting to know each other phase has to happen. There needs to be a certain amount of time invested. Now, maybe I went in that direction with that person in that relationship because it looked all wonderful and great and golden. But then I get in there and I find out that, oh, wow, this person doesn't like to work. Oh, we have completely different mindsets or belief systems about family or about any number of other things. Maybe it looked like you were a great fit when you first got there, but it doesn't anymore. So be open to reevaluating, reassessing as that new information comes in. So we literally have about a minute left. So I'm going to try to get through the quote that I want to leave you with. When we set goals, it's important for us to allow space for new information and not get so locked in on a certain result that we feel like a failure if it doesn't work out. Every experience gives us new information, and that new information helps us create our belief systems and the circumstances that support them. So even when things don't work out, there is still value in that experience. It's all up to you, my friends. What do you choose to do with it? That's all up to you. So that's the time that I have for you today. Thank you so much for being with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. Again, I am Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. I am here every Friday. Next week, we are talking about resilience. What is it and how do I get some of that? Yes. So next Friday, that will be our conversation. We'll be here 1 p.m. Oh, 1 p.m. Eastern, and you can figure out your time zone. You're smart. I know you can figure that out. So thank you again so much for being with me today. I so love to come on here and share my thoughts and hear your thoughts on Facebook. Again, Jackie Mott, Mindset and Empowerment Expert on Facebook. JackieMott.com is the website. You can contact me through either of those places. Thanks again so much for your time, your attention, and your engagement. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you for joining us for Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. Jackie Mott will return next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Have a fantastic week, and remember, it's your time to rise and thrive.